Okay, anyway, all right.
Watch Big Mouth on Netflix.
Okay.
No.
Let me edit that. Okay. All right, so we have, this is Trig Unit 4. We are going over this right here. Now, if you guys are checking out the video from last year's version, question 2 is different. I changed up that one. Okay, so it's going to match better with what we have on the test. So now on this one right here, you have to do all your steps. So this is a cosecant function. Now, if you guys recall, how many steps was with the cosecant function until you get your graph? There was 7, right? There was 7 because we had to go through, we had to do all the things, then we graphed our sine, then we ended up graphing the reciprocal of that, the cosecant. So I'm going to go through and start this here. Okay, so step 1 is amplitude. Amp is? Okay. Step 2, period. What's my period? What is it?
Is it 2 pi?
2 pi over b, and my b value here is 1, right?
C.
Okay. 3. Phase shift. Positive pi over 3. But the phase shift is positive, so it's going to the left, isn't it? Okay, good. And then we have next one, 4. Vertical shift. What do we have? We got what? None. There is no vertical shift here. Right? No vertical shift. Step 5.
0, 1 over 4.
Okay, so step 5 parts. I'm going to put it over here. So 0, 1/4, 3 fourths, and 1. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by 2 pi, and then minus pi over 3. There we go. So we have it all set up now. Okay, so hopefully I don't run too much into my thing. So this one, starting off, I get what? 0 minus pi over 3.
So negative pi over 3.
Very good. Negative pi over 3. So quarter times 2 pi is pi over 2 minus pi over 3. So that's going to give me, let me see, pi over 2 minus pi over 3, right? So if I do my math, it's going to be 3 pi minus 2 pi over 6. So 3 minus 2 gives me 1 pi over 6.
Oh shoot, dude, I did do it wrong.
Okay,
I knew it.
next one. All right, so half times pi, or 2 pi, just pi, right? So I have pi
Wait, what?
over 1. What's half times 2? 1, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we get 1 there. So it's pi over 1 minus pi over 3, which is going to give me 3 pi minus pi over 3. So it's 2 pi over 2 pi over 3.
Wait, what?
Okay, remember we do the butterfly. 3 times pi is 3, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
1 times pi is 1. So it's 3 minus 1. So that gives me the 2. Okay? Next one. We're going to get what? So 3 pi over 2, right?
6 pi over 4.
Actually, let's see if I could change this to a smaller font. A little bit. So it's going to be 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 3. So do my math. It's going to be 9 pi minus 2 pi, which is
Sen pi.
over
6.
7 pi over 6. My last one here. 2 pi over 1 minus pi over 3. So it's going to give me 6 pi, right? 6 pi minus 1 pi, 5 pi over 3. Okay, sorry. So we end up with 5 pi over 3 there. So I have all my parts, right? So when I do this, this is the reciprocal function, so it's flipped over, right? So we're going to graph sine of x plus pi over 3, right? We're going to graph that. And then when it's time to graph the cosecant, that's the reciprocal of it. So I start with this. So I'm going to start with my parts. So I start here at negative pi over 3. Next one's going to be pi over 6. 2 pi over 3. 7 pi over 6.
Sen pi.
And 5 pi over 3. So I have all my parts there. Okay. So now to graph this, I have all my parts. Now, what was my amplitude? 1. Amplitude is 1. So it's going to go up to 1, right? And it's going to go down to negative 1, right? Okay. So it's going to be 1. There's my negative 1, and here's my positive 1. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to graph the sine. Sine always starts at 0. Very good. Sine always starts at 0. So for this one right here, it's going to start here. And then at pi over 6, it's going to be at 1. So it's going to go up to 1. Right here. And at 2 pi over 3, goes down to 0. And at 7 pi over 6, negative 1. And then at 5 pi over 3, back up to 0, right? So there's my sine wave. Now, I have to have the sine wave here because that's going to tell me certain things. What's going to happen after this?
Every time there's a
0.
yeah, it turns into an asymptote.
I have asymptotes there. Zeros are asymptotes. So, okay, now it's time to actually graph the reciprocal function. So now the reciprocal function, so this is the sine, right? And the reciprocal function is going to be in red. So now, I need to take this piece in between my two asymptotes and do what? Flip them over, right? So I'm going to take the reciprocal. I'm going to flip those over. So right here, it's going to go up to there, like that. And over here, in between at 7 pi over 6, so in between this portion, it's going to go down.
I mean, my graph looks right. I just did the math wrong.
There you go. So this is the graph of the function using all of our steps. Yes?
Oh, that's it. We're going to do all that?
Yes. So we have 4 of these for the test, and they're not all this complicated. Some of them are a little bit easier, but still.
Wait, how do you know you have to do that? Is it only when it's cosecant?
Cosecant and secant. Those are the reciprocal functions. Those are the ones that they flip up and down. Okay? So that, yes, I will do it on those. So the next one. This one doesn't have its own graph, so I'm going to draw a graph for it. Okay, so now right here, step 1, amplitude,
1/3.
1/3. Step 2 is going to be pi over 4, right? Because tangent and cotangent always start with pi, and I divide it by b, and my b value here is 4. Right, Cash? Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. Just making sure you're following along. All right, 3. Step 3 is step 4
Vertical shift.
is
None. Parts.
okay. 5.
Parts.
Nope.
The
Asymptotes.
The head.
Asymptotes.
Asymptotes.
Now, for tangent and cotangent, I always have to have asymptotes next.
Yep.
Because that's going to give me the place in which that my graph is going to go in between. Okay, I need to know where those are. Okay, so my asymptotes. So cotangent, my asymptotes start where?
0 and pi.
0 and pi. So I'm going to have one at 0, and I'm going to have one at pi. Okay, the one at 0 and pi. So I'm going to do what? Multiply by period, which is?
What do I agree?
Wait, I thought you did it by 1 over b.
No, that's the next part. So if I have a phase shift off of this too.
But I thought to get the asymptote it was 1 over b, not the period.
Do you want to double check on the notes? I could actually go back and show you.
Maybe I'm just tripping, but whatever.
You might be, but you're maybe. You guys maybe. Got something going on here. They're asking for the sponsor for computer games right now.
There isn't one.
I know, so, but they're just wandering around the school looking for whatever. All right, anyway, so asymptote is there. Okay, so what would go next? Anyone want to pull their notes on that one?
I don't know.
Okay, so it would be the phase shift, right? So the phase shift, so since I don't have a phase shift on this one, I don't have to add anything to this, right?
So it's 0.
Okay, so it's plus 0 on this one. Okay, so for this right here, this is what we come up with. And so now this one, okay. And so, actually, I think she was right. It was supposed to be 1 over b. Because otherwise I come up with a...
Boy,
I know, I just, look.
why don't you listen to me?
I did. I just listened to you, and I even said it right now.
Whoa.
Look, you could even rewind it and change it as your ringtone of me saying I'm sorry. Okay, so
Can
it's
you
one.
say the words Ariana, you were right? Hang on.
Anyway,
Let me get Snapchat.
Ariana, you're right. Okay, so right here. So yes, it is 1 over b. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it is 1 over b because otherwise over here we end up with pi squared. So pi squared is actually not going to help us out. So yeah, it is 1 over b. I'm sorry. 1 over b. 1 over b.
Lies.
It is lies. Okay, so this is still 0.
Lies. What?
And this one's going to be? That one's going to be pi over 4.
So
So we have the asymptotes. Right?
asymptote.
Okay, asymptotes.
And then parts.
So asymptote.
Okay, parts. Okay, so the parts in between there. So, what do we have? What is it going to be?
0, 1 half.
We start here, right? We have our start. Do you guys still... I know you guys have the notes somewhere,
What
right?
are you talking about?
We have our start, right?
Yeah. So we start
We have our start. So we start with what?
1/4.
Okay, 1/4, right?
That's what you just said.
1/2.
3/4.
Okay. Why do I not have other ones in between?
Because that's in between the asymptotes.
These are going to be in between our asymptotes, right? Okay. So we multiply this by my period, which is pi over 4, and then I would do my phase shift if needed.
The heck is going on? What's going on here?
Which is going to give me, and there we go. So my graph for this one right here. So I have a graph, so there's my x-axis, and then I have,
Oh, Sujitsu.
I think they're bidding up the
Can you go check? Cause
What if she's like endangered?
unacceptable. What happened?
all right, so now from here, let's go ahead. I have 0. Oh, that's not good.
Oh, yeah.
The next one is going to be
What were the four months this year?
pi over 16, right? Next one,
I forgot about the asymptotes when I did that.
Asymptotes.
okay, so let's do the asymptotes. We have right here, because that's what I needed to do first. There we go, I have the asymptotes. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, okay, middle. Where's the middle going to be?
Gonna get.
At 0, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have that at 0. Now, this is it tangent or cotangent? Cotangent. Cotangent ends how?
From up to down.
It ends down. Because tangent ends up, cotangent ends down unless there's a negative in front of it.
Okay.
Okay? So now, this one, what is my amplitude?
1/3.
So right here, I'm going to call this negative 1/3. And this one right here is going to be a positive 1/3. So, cotangent is supposed to end down. That means that over here, I'm going to have a down. Over here, I have an up. And then I draw my line from there. So, it starts here. Like that. You just need to graph it over one period. All right, make sense? Okay, so this one is actually going to be a whole lot more.
Oh my god.
Because why? It says find the period and phase shift. Okay,
Bless you.
my period is going to be what? 2 pi over 3. Very good, that's it. Now to get the phase shift, it's going to be what?
Reminds me, that's not fair.
It's pi over 6 divided by 3. Divided by my b value, right? So it's going to give me pi over 6 times,
1 over 3.
which is
Pi over
pi over 18. Now, if it's asked for a direction, which way is that going to be?
To the left.
That's to the left. Positive numbers to the left, negative numbers to the right.
Wait, that's all?
Did you read it? Sit.
Wait.
All right. So, find the phase shift and vertical translation of the function. Now, first, what's my phase shift? What do I have to do?
Pi over 2.
Pi over 2 divided by,
Oh, yeah.
So there's a fraction.
Is your doing the opposite, is it the same?
Harder.
huh?
Is we do like the opposite, was it the same?
What do you mean? So, I'm going to do pi over 2 times 2 over 1, like that? Is that what you're saying, Dan?
No, like I have to put half over the.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's no good. Yeah, you have to start with this number right here
On top.
divided by b.
Okay.
So my phase shift is just going to be pi. And if it asks for a direction, that's to the left.
Okay, wait, let's say if the 1/2 was on the outside of the parentheses. Would it
Then it's already factored. So you're saying if it was cosine of 1/2 parentheses x plus pi over 2, like that,
Yeah. It would just be
that means it's already factored out. The b is factored out already, and so therefore your phase shift is there. The only time you have to do like I did here, is when it's not factored out. Okay, because it's always supposed to be this over b, but here b is already factored out.
Oh, well.
Okay? Alright, vertical translation.
-1.
Vertical shift.
-1.
-1, yeah.
So, what is that vertical shift after telling you it's doing?
up or down.
Up or down, but what is it doing?
Down.
Down
Then
1. Down 1. Don't say down -1 because that's a double negative.
and 2 negatives equal positive.
So it's like saying you're never not going to fail.
That means I am gonna.
Yeah. Anyway, alright, so I know you guys are going to study the crap out of this because this test is going to be Thursday, which is tomorrow.
What?
Wait, and